Hello all, my name is Lakia Aguch. I am the CEO and founder of Medical Militia. We are a nonprofit wellness agency. I'm also the founder of Stand for Something Media Group Limited and the House of Grandeur. It's a house of dapper adaptive design. I thank you all for being here with me. Today, we're going to have a very important and very serious conversation. We're also going to talk very plainly about some changes that are going to be happening in 2026. They do take effect, and they're going to impact families very, very significantly that depend on Medicare, Medicaid, and the SNAP program. They are especially going to impact families who are caring for adult children with disabilities who are living at home, very specifically. So let me be very clear about what we're discussing today. These are not going to be what you would consider small or insignificant changes. For many, many households, this year is going to be, if you've never had to before, this year will be the year that's going to require you to be proactive and for you to move in action. There will be notices that are going to be coming out. You're going to have to review them. When you get to your renewals, you will need to complete them on time and with thorough current documentation. And this may sound like, just rinse and repeat more of the same, but I promise you, 2026 is going to be the year where you will have to be proactive in a different type of way. So let's just get right to it. And let me ask you guys just really quickly, how many of you guys are caring for a family member or a disabled loved one at home? If that's you, if you are caring for or helping to care for a family member or a loved one who does live with a disability, this conversation is specifically for you. I'm talking to you. Also, I'm here for you, but I'm speaking directly to you. Okay. So let's talk about it. Beginning in 2026, Medicare and the dual special needs plans, it's also referred to as D-SNP, dual special needs plans. These programs are going to have changes that you will see, you will notice. What has happened is for many, many years, there has been a Medicare Advantage plan that had extra benefits. The dual special needs plans offered extra benefits. Now, those benefits came through a federal pilot program that was referred to as the VBID, which stands for the Value-Based Insurance Design Model. That was a pilot program. That pilot has ended. It no longer exists. So to that end, starting this year, 2026, many, many plans may have reduced or removed completely, totally extra benefits that you have just gotten used to and have begun relying on because they were helpful to your family and to your process, right? Now, what are these changes that we're referring to? What am I talking about? So these are going to be things like the extra grocery credits that you may have been receiving. It's going to be things like utility credits, assistance with your utility bills, right? These are going to be things like transportation credits, the additional assistance in transportation, getting to and from your locations. It's going to impact some of the over-the-counter prescriptions, those allowances that you've received. Those will change as well. And then the very broad $0 prescription copays that you may have come to rely upon, they are changing. Now, let me be very, very clear about these benefits because as helpful as they were, this was not a permanent part of our process, okay? Wasn't guaranteed. This was a pilot program, right? The pilot has ended, so now it's time to do something different before your reality changes as well, right? Without you understanding what that next step is going to be. So what is this going to look like for you? What are your next steps? You are going to receive this year and every year, you will receive in September an annual notice of change. It comes every September. You want to read it this year, okay? Read the whole thing. It may seem tedious. If you have a loved one, go sit with them and review their annual notice of change in September. Look for it and read it. That letter is going to tell you exactly what is changing in your specific plan for the upcoming year, right? So for 2027, it's going to tell you what to expect. Okay. Now, on a bonus, right? So for the plus size, for the dual special needs plans that are required to complete an initial health risk assessment for new members within the first 90 days, that is something that is now a requirement. Okay. So if you have a new patient, a new person, new individual, someone in your family is enrolled into the dual special needs program, there is now a requirement within the first 90 days for an assessment to be done. They have got to come out. They have to assess your situation, and to your benefit. Understand that you don't have to just sit back and wait for that to happen. If someone doesn't reach out, if someone doesn't schedule within 90 days of your enrollment for someone to do this risk assessment, right? The initial health risk assessment, if that's not done, call your plan. Call them. Okay. Let them know, hey, we're enrolled. If you have a child who is an adult child with a disability who has been on your benefits and you're in that 24-month window, pay attention, because at the end of that, you're going to need to do something. And this is the thing that you're going to need to do. Okay. So you should not just sit back and quietly wait for something to happen. Don't do that. Okay. If they don't call you within the first 2 months, if they do not call you, call them directly and ask for by name the initial health risk assessment. There's a reason for that, right? So what that's going to do is that assessment is going to trigger. It's going to trigger your treatment plan for someone to review it, right? It's going to trigger the need to understand what benefits need to be put in place. Do you need to have durable medical equipment? Do you need these things? That initial assessment is going to inform what your care should look like. So take advantage. Use that to your benefit, okay? Also, understand that there is a projected Medicare Part B increase that's happening in 2026, okay? So what is that going to look like? So the projected monthly premium is looking or expected to increase to approximately $206.50, approximately. That's monthly premium increase to expect. From an annual perspective, expect the annual deductible to increase somewhere around $288 annually. This is what you should expect. Now, if you're dual eligible individuals, Medicaid and Medicare, if you're dual eligible, Medicaid may well cover these additional expenses, some or all of them. But let me be very clear about what I'm saying. Do not make the assumption, oh, I've got both. I'm okay, Queen. No. No, don't make that assumption. You may be, and you may be right. But this is the year to clarify and confirm. You want to verify. You do not want to make assumptions, because that is how you can and potentially will lose your benefits. You do not want that to happen. You don't want to have to run behind it and get things reinstated. This is the year for proactive. Okay. So now let's talk about Medicaid for a moment. Okay. Now Medicaid is local, right? Medicare is federal. Medicaid is local. So to that end, if you receive Medicaid and you are where I am, I'm in the state of California. I live in LA. If you are in the state of California and you receive Medicaid, it is referred to in California as Medi-Cal. Medicaid for California, Medi-Cal. If you are a Medi-Cal recipient, one of the biggest changes that has occurred in the system is this year, okay? There have been for some time the removal of asset limits for California Medi-Cal or Medicaid recipients. This year, they're coming back. Full stop. Okay. So expect it. Expect the return of asset limits as of January 1. P.S. They're already back. As of January 1, expect the return. Now, what does that look like for you? So for an individual, the asset limit in California is $130,000. That is the asset limit in the state of California. If you are in another state and you have a question about whether this applies to your state, contact your local office. It is specific to each individual state. But for where I am located, for California residents, okay, there's a $130,000 asset limit cap that is coming back. Okay, there is an additional $65,000 allowed for each additional household member, right? But this matters because your assets have to be documented, right? They have to be documented at your first Medi-Cal renewal in 2026. They have to be. What's going to happen is if you miss that renewal or you submit incomplete information, it could put your coverage at risk. It's not what we want. It's not worth it. Okay. So also understand, right? Don't freak out. Like, wait a minute, my assets, what are we talking about? Let me tell you. Okay. So not every asset counts. Not every asset is going to be relevant to this. What doesn't count? What's not in this batch? First and foremost, your primary residence. If you own your primary residence, if you are buying your primary residence, you have a mortgage, if it's an asset for you, that does not count. Your first car, if you have a car, you have a vehicle in your name, you bought it, you own it, it's your asset. That does not count. Your personal property, right? If you're on a Mac, a HP, a Lenovo, if you're on a computer right now and you've got a cell phone in your hand, those are assets. They do not count. It's personal property. It does not count for the sake of what we are discussing right now. Okay, so your personal property, your primary residence, your first home, and certain retirement accounts may be exempt. Do your homework, you guys. Look this stuff up yourself. See how it applies to you. But what is included in this? What do you need to be concerned about? Your checking accounts, your savings accounts, a second, third, or further vehicle, right? And investment accounts. If you are into cryptocurrency, if you have stocks, investment accounts, they count. Okay. And last but not least, any cash that may be on hand. Okay. So cash, checking, savings, investment accounts, and multiple vehicles. Those are the assets in the state of California that are now going to be considered in your total process. Okay. So if you're unsure, if you don't know, please speak to a benefits counselor locally, talk to your social worker, or a disability rights organization in your state before your renewal date. Before. Do not wait, you guys. Please don't wait. Now, for working adults with disabilities, and this is a big part of this process and a big part of the reason why we're having this conversation at all. For adults working with disabilities, Medicaid has what's considered a buy-in program in 47 of 50 states. Okay. So not every state has it. Check locally. Most states offer a buy-in program. Okay. So this may be available. If this applies to you or your loved one, look into it. These programs allow people with disabilities to work and earn income and pay a premium to keep their Medicaid coverage, right? Think about what I'm saying. So when I consider these programs, to me, it reminds me of the idea of a COBRA program, if you're familiar, right? If you're in corporate America and you've worked and you've ever left a job and that job was your insurance carrier, a lot of times they will give you maybe a 24-month period after you've left that employment where you can maintain COBRA, your insurance, okay? You have to pay for it and you have to pay more than you would have paid through that employer. However, you don't immediately lose coverage. This reminds me of that, okay? So there is a version of this for Medicaid recipients who may qualify. So look into it locally, ask your social worker. It's especially important for those disabled children who may be entering the workforce or are supported in work, okay? So now let's talk a little bit about the SNAP program, because this is going to be impacted pretty massively in 2026. What SNAP has done is they have come out with more strict requirements for, and let me be very clear, the way I read it, the way I understood it, for non-disabled recipients, okay? Non-disabled recipients of SNAP, which also, I apologize, you guys, SNAP also is referred to as the food stamp program, or was formerly referred to as the food stamp program. So if you're receiving food stamp or SNAP benefits, you are between the ages of 18 to 54. You're receiving SNAP between the ages of 18 to 54, and you are not disabled. There are going to be more strict requirements for you to continue receiving your benefits. And those requirements are going to include you must work, attend training, or participate in qualifying activities for at least 80 hours every month. Non-disabled SNAP recipients, food stamp recipients between the ages of 18 and 54, okay? Now, a very important distinction would be a disability exemption, if that is in place, right? So if this is the same individual, but now they are disabled, okay? How does this apply to you? If you have an adult child, who is receiving Social Security income or Social Security disability insurance, SSDI or SSI, that has a qualifying disability, they should be exempt from the work requirements that I just discussed with you. However, I mean this, you guys, make sure it is documented. Make sure it is current and on file, and it has all of the medical verification that your caseworker is looking for to continue with your benefits. I don't want you guys losing benefits over something you can get ahead of, right? So this isn't a matter of whether you will or won't apply. It's a matter of how engaged and involved in your own advocacy you become. Now is the time. It does make a difference. So if an adult child with disabilities is over the age of 22 and lives in their parents' home and they're receiving SNAP food stamp benefits, there is a caveat, okay? There is a caveat, all right? They can be treated as a separate household if and only if this adult child is purchasing and preparing their meals separately from everyone else. Let me give you guys an example, okay? Let's say you have an adult child. Let's say they have a disability. Let's say that they are very functional in their life, very independent in their life and in their world. Let's say that they have found gainful employment outside of their home, and they get up in the morning, they fix themselves a bowl of cereal, an orange, and a glass of orange juice before they head out the house for work. Let's say they arrive at work, they're there all day, so they have to purchase themselves lunch, or they've packed themselves a lunch to take to work with them. Let's say on the way home, they don't get home until 5 or 6 p.m. and maybe they stop and grab themselves something to eat on the way home, or come home and prepare themselves a meal with their own separate food. What I'm saying to you guys is don't misrepresent your household, please. Please do not misrepresent your household, but also very accurately represent what in fact is occurring, because that is very commonly the exact situation. But we have a tendency sometimes as patients and as people to try and be courteous in these medical interactions. And in our courtesy, we tend to have the ability to not necessarily be as accurate or get into the nuance or the minutia that is our reality. This is a time for nuance. Let's get to the minutia. It's needed because this is a thing that has the ability to make sure that your child, adult child, independent adult child, has the ability to maintain their integrity and their independence. And that's massive. That is everything when we're talking about advocacy. Okay. So I say it again, please don't misrepresent your family, right? If you buy and prepare all of the food in the household together, if you buy, prepare, and consume all of the food together in the household, then you're one household and you should be counted as such. But if there is a separation that has just naturally occurred with the independence of this individual, or an intentional separation to help this young individual learn their independence, if that is your reality, please, please, please make sure that your caseworker, your social worker knows. It's going to make a difference. Okay. So make sure you speak to the caseworker about what those SNAP benefits are. Make sure that your household is currently being classified properly. And if you don't know how you're being classified, ask. Call your caseworker, ask them. They'll tell you. They'll tell you. Okay. And then that way you can make the appropriate changes, whatever that looks like, to make sure that you're receiving the benefits that you should be receiving in a timely manner. Okay. I want to focus specifically on these adult children with disabilities, right? Because that's why we're here. So a disabled adult child, also referred to as a DAC, a disabled adult child may receive benefits through their parents' Social Security record. Okay. That happens when that child began their disability or began receiving these benefits before they were at the age of 22. Okay. So yet again, if this is your household and you have an adult child who is receiving benefits and they're receiving them through your Social Security, after receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance benefits for 2 years, 24 consecutive months, that person then becomes eligible for Medicare. And many times families can miss that transition. Don't miss it. Do not miss it. Look for it. Be prepared for it. That 24 month is pretty much the same time frame that everyone else is receiving, right? So what you guys need to do is, if your adult child is approaching the 24-month SSDI milestone, if that is coming up on you, contact the Social Security Administration, confirm when enrollment with Medicare begins, find out when your window is. There's an enrollment window. Find out when your window is and make sure that your Part B enrollment is completed in a timely fashion. It matters. It matters because without that, you may find yourself with penalties, and that's what you don't want. Okay. So for 2026, know that there are changes that are coming. You want to get ahead of them. You want to know what's coming down the pike. If you have an adult child and they are approaching their 24-month SSDI milestone window, contact the Social Security Administration, confirm their Medicare enrollment window, and make sure you are signing up for Part B enrollment. B as in boy. Okay. Late enrollment is going to leave you with a penalty. You don't want that. So for 2026, there's something called substantial gain activity threshold. Substantial gainful activity threshold in 2026 for recipients is the amount is $1,690 per month, a month. What does that mean? That means that someone who receives SSDI, an SSDI recipient who is who's working and earning more than $1,690 per month. If you earn more than that, it may trigger a disability review. Okay. You need to know that. You need to know that. So you want to make sure you're keeping track of what your adult child is earning, not just annually, monthly. $1,690 a month. That's the number. Okay. Now let's talk about these earnings, right? Because now that your adult child with a disability is independent and they're working and they're earning, right? They're doing the things. Where are we putting these funds, right? Checking account, savings account, that type of thing. So as of January 1, 2026, there is something that exists called an ABLE, ABLE, ABLE account. ABLE account eligibility is expanding, it's growing as of January 2026. So previously, you would have needed to have been disabled before the age of 26. If you received your disability determination before you turned 26 years old, you're already eligible for what's called an ABLE account. As of this year, that threshold is expanding. Now, if you have been documented as being disabled before the age of 46, if that is you, now you have the ability to be eligible for an ABLE account as well. Okay. So ABLE accounts allow eligible participants with disabilities to save money, savings account. Okay. That automatically is not counting against your Medicaid or your SNAP eligibility. It is not counted against that. That's the bonus. That's the benefit. Right. So if you have a family member and they are eligible and they do not have an ABLE account and you think that that might be appropriate, right? Now, also, let's be very clear. You can get an account anywhere, right? Your credit union, your local bank. The point is to make sure that you're aware of what is going on. Asset limits, important. You need to be aware of them. Income limits, important. You need to be aware of them. So this is an option. It is available. It was not an option prior to 2026. So if you are in need of a savings account for your child to keep track of what their income, what their earnings are, and where they're at in their thresholds, ABLE accounts are now eligible for all participants under the age of 46 with their determination. If you've been determined to be disabled before you were 46 years of age, you now qualify. Okay. Now let's talk about what are our action steps, because man, I gave you guys a lot of information. Okay. But I'm going to hit you with a checklist. I'm not going to let you get out of here without having a very clear list of, hey, that's a lot of info. Now, what do I do? Let's talk about what you do next. Okay. First things first. The word for 2026 is proactive, proactive, proactive. You are going to have to advocate. You are going to have to get ahead of what is coming. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is review your Medicare Advantage or your dual special needs plan. Look at your annual notice of change. This is coming in September of this year and every year. Look for it. Review it. That is number one. Set a calendar event for yourself for September to review your annual notice of change. Step one. Okay. Step two. If you are a California resident, specifically, immediately, and only, if you are a California resident and you or a family member has Medi-Cal, California's version of Medicaid, if you have Medi-Cal, you will need to verify your countable assets. All right, we talked about what that is. Your countable assets, checking account, savings account, retirement accounts, multiple vehicles, countable assets. You need to review that before your first renewal in 2026. Review it. Look at those things, see where your numbers are, make sure everything makes sense for your family. Number three, if you're disabled adult child, DAC, if you're disabled adult child, which is anyone who received their disability designation before the age of 22, if your disabled adult child is approaching their 24 months of SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. Contact Social Security Administration. Do not wait. Contact them about when your Medicare enrollment opening is. When is my window? I want to make sure I apply for Plan B for my child, right? Fourth, if you receive a dual special needs plan, if your child or your loved one receives a dual special needs program, ask about the requirement for a health risk assessment. If they're new to this plan and they have not had their initial health risk assessment done, call and ask for it. It is yours. You deserve it. It will help you receive the benefits that you need. This is what's going to trigger all of those additional processes to begin. Okay. Fifth, please consider and explore whether an ABLE, ABLE, whether an ABLE account is good for you and your family. Maybe it's not the right account for you. Maybe you're going to go to your local credit union. Maybe you've been banking with this bank or that bank for 20, 30, wherever you are. Just make sure you're considering assets and income. Consider this. It's important. If you qualify and an ABLE account is right for you, the limits have been raised. If you have been determined to be disabled prior to the age of 46, if your determination came before the age of 46, you qualify for an ABLE account, you are welcome to use it. And sixth, if your adult child is over 22 and prepares their own food separately from you and your family, ask SNAP about separate household classifications. If that applies, use it. If it does not, chew the meat, spit out the bone. That's not for you. Okay. And last but not least, make sure that all disability documentation is current. I know you guys have done this over and over again. I have too. Make sure for 2026, it's current. Make sure it is up to date, right? Make sure that you have submitted to SNAP, food stamps, Medicaid, and to Social Security Disability Administration. Make sure everyone has on file your medical disability documentation. It's going to matter, okay? So listen, this is the wrap. This is where we close it up. And in closing, listen, I just want to acknowledge how important this conversation is. I want to thank you guys for spending the time, right, to come and listen to this information. If it resonates with you, a loved one, a family member, please, I encourage you, share this information. Share it freely, early and often, okay? These systems are very difficult to navigate. They are. The rules are complex. They're layered. There's a lot to it. And the notices can be very confusing and sporadic. You might get it. You might not. But my goal is to make sure that you guys are prepared, okay? Because these deadlines are serious and you will lose your benefits or lose the ability to move about this world in the manner in which we all deserve to, okay? And families, you shouldn't have to figure this out by yourself. You should not. That shouldn't be a thing, okay? So the message for today, be proactive, be proactive, be proactive. 2026 is the year that is going to separate the curd from the whey. It's going to be a very challenging year for a lot of people who do not know how to now navigate their benefits. It's not the same as it always was, okay? So please open the letters, right? If you have decided that you want to be paperless, check your email, check your spam folder, okay? Ask questions, please. Attend your renewals and bring all your paperwork, right? When you have your renewals, bring the big bag of medicine. Give them more information than less. And most importantly, document everything. Document everything. It matters. Make calls before the benefits are interrupted. It's so much harder to get started back as opposed to managing and maintaining. That's all I got, guys. So I literally just want to thank you for being here. I'm available for questions, comments, concerns. I encourage you and your family, please follow up with Medicare, follow up with Medicaid, contact your Social Security office, your caseworkers, your SNAP caseworkers, and your state, right? And have a conversation about the programs. Discuss these programs, discuss the benefits, talk to your counselor, and just make sure that you are receiving the care that you deserve. That's all I got for you guys. I'm Lakia A. Gooch. I am with Medical Militia, and thank you so much for being here.